The unspoken divide. Exclusion zones in African cities. For African in a continent rich with diversity and culture, there exists a stark reality that many prefer to ignore, a reality where segregation still thrives, and certain areas remain off limits to specific groups of people. Across various African cities, some zones effectively bar Black Africans from entering, perpetuating a legacy of discrimination and inequality. This hidden divide raises critical questions about identity, belonging, and the future of urban Africa. Join us as we delve into the complexities of these exclusion zones, exploring their origins, impacts, and the ongoing fight for equality. Understanding exclusion zones. Exclusion zones in African cities manifest in various forms, whether through physical barriers, social stigmas, or economic inequalities. These areas are often characterized by a combination of historical, political, and socio-economic factors that have contributed to their creation and maintenance. Historical context. The roots of segregation in Africa can be traced back to colonial rule, which enforced racially discriminatory policies that favored certain groups over others. These policies laid the groundwork for the divisions we see today. After gaining independence, many African nations struggled to dismantle the structures of inequality. While laws may have changed, societal attitudes often lag, perpetuating a culture of exclusion. Modern-day manifestations. Many exclusion zones are economically motivated. Wealthier neighborhoods often have the resources to establish barriers, both physical and social, that keep marginalized groups at bay. In some cities, social networks and community ties dictate who belongs where. This unwritten rule can lead to exclusion based on ethnicity, class, or skin color, creating invisible barriers that are just as effective as fences. Case studies of exclusion zones. To fully grasp the gravity of this issue, let's examine specific case studies where exclusion zones have become a glaring reality. Case Study 1. Johannesburg, South Africa. Johannesburg has a long history of racial segregation, most notably during apartheid, when Black South Africans were forcibly removed from their homes in certain areas. Although apartheid officially ended, the remnants of these policies linger on. In contemporary Johannesburg, certain affluent neighborhoods maintain a de facto exclusion of Black Africans through so-called security measures like gated communities and private security forces. These areas often have limited access to public services and amenities for residents from marginalized backgrounds. Case Study 2. Nairobi, Kenya. In Nairobi, the divide can often be seen in the contrast between upscale neighborhoods and informal settlements. The wealthier areas are often inaccessible due to high rents and the social stigma attached to residing in lower-income neighborhoods. The social fabric of Nairobi also reflects these divisions, with many affluent Kenyans choosing to socialize within their economic class, further entrenching the divide. Case Study 3. Lagos, Nigeria. In Lagos, certain areas are physically barricaded, restricting access to specific groups. These barriers often manifest as elaborate security systems aimed at protecting wealthier residents from perceived threats. Cultural attitudes also play a significant role in these exclusion zones, where stereotypes and prejudices can lead to social ostracism based on ethnic and economic status. The impact of exclusion zones. The existence of exclusion zones has far-reaching implications for individuals and communities, impacting everything from economic opportunities to social cohesion. Economic consequences. For those living outside these exclusion zones, accessing essential services like healthcare, education, and employment opportunities becomes increasingly difficult. This economic disparity can perpetuate cycles of poverty. Exclusion hampers creativity and innovation. When diverse voices are silenced or sidelined, communities miss out on the potential contributions of individuals who could drive progress. Social and psychological effects. Living in an environment marked by exclusion can lead to feelings of isolation and hopelessness. The psychological toll can be profound, affecting individuals' well-being and sense of identity. Exclusion breeds mistrust among communities. When individuals feel marginalized, they are less likely to engage positively with others, leading to a breakdown in social cohesion. Resistance and resilience. Despite the challenges posed by exclusion zones, there are countless stories of resistance and resilience. Communities across Africa are banding together to challenge these injustices and forge a path toward inclusivity. Grassroots movements. Grassroots organizations are emerging to advocate for the rights of marginalized individuals, focusing on dismantling exclusionary practices and promoting equitable access to resources. Cultural events that celebrate diversity are gaining traction, bringing together individuals from different backgrounds to foster understanding and unity. Policy changes advocacy groups are pushing for policy changes that promote inclusivity and dismantle discriminatory practices. These efforts are crucial in reshaping the legal landscape to protect marginalized communities. Partnerships between local governments, NGOs, and community leaders are being formed to address the root causes of exclusion and create sustainable solutions. The path forward as we move forward, the fight against exclusion zones requires collective action and a commitment to inclusivity. Here are some key areas to focus on: education and awareness. Promoting awareness about the existence and implications of exclusion zones is critical. Education can empower individuals to advocate for change and challenge discriminatory practices. Engaging young people in discussions about inclusivity and diversity will help cultivate a generation committed to breaking down barriers. Building alliances. Fostering alliances between different communities can help build solidarity and amplify voices advocating for change. Together, these groups can challenge exclusionary practices more effectively. Gaining support from individuals and organizations outside the affected communities can bolster efforts to create inclusive spaces and challenge systemic inequalities. In conclusion, the existence of exclusion zones in African cities is a pressing issue that reflects deeper societal challenges. While the roots of segregation run deep, the resilience and determination of communities fighting for inclusivity offer hope for a brighter future. By raising awareness, fostering collaboration, and advocating for policy changes, we can work together to dismantle the barriers that divide us. The journey toward equality is ongoing, but every step taken brings us closer to a world where everyone has the right to belong. Thank you for joining us as we explored the unspoken divide in Africa's cities. Together, let's continue to advocate for justice, inclusivity, and a future where every individual, regardless of their background, can thrive.